The home of the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all those media talking heads. Woo! Another great week of college football. And this is why I love college football so much, more so than any other sport out there, because you always have something great happen week in and week out. Unexpected, great upsets to unexpected firings of head coaches. Well, maybe not so unexpected, but just the timing of a certain firing. And thrilling last-minute victories that you didn't think would be last-minute victories. College football has a way of surprising us week in and week out, and you'll try to call it and predict it, and it's just not that easy. A lot of people probably stick with the NFL as far as putting your money on football games, because college football, it'll put the screws to you. Let's talk about it. Well. Here we go again. Another week of college football. Man, I don't know how much more of this I'm going to be able to take. Already early on, my team trying to give me a coronary out there in Austin, Texas. But this is the OCF, the Outlaw of College Football. I'm also known as JPC. You can find me on Twitter at OCF Productions and on Facebook under Jesse Paul Clark. Spelled Jesse without an I. That's right. Now, getting right to it. Got some notes here. Got some people I'm putting on the list today. Got a lot of people put on the list today. But, starting off, we're going to start off with those Nebraska Cornhuskers. That's right. Nebraska has basically had their fill of Scott Frost and his excuses for the less than one score and single-digit losses now. A record amount of single-digit losses in a row. What is it like now, 10 or 11 in a row? And that's just crazy, man. And they lost Northwestern, had the controversial onside kick. That was the beginning of the end for Scott Frost, in my estimation. Now, I have no problem or issue with Trev Alberts firing Scott Frost. Okay, we all knew it was coming. But I think the timing of it is pretty close to being spastic on Trev Alberts' part. So maybe the problem ain't just Scott Frost. That's my thing in this whole thing. And the Nebraska Cornhusker fans out there probably going to get pissed off because Trev Alberts is one of their own. But so is Scott Frost. So why not wait till October 1st? I mean, he's already lost to Northwestern, and now he loses to Georgia Southern, and you fire him. I can understand you firing him if the contract was through the end of the year, because you might as well go ahead and bite the bullet and fire him, but you only got 2 or 3 weeks left until the buyout comes down exponentially, Trev. Why are you going to give up millions of dollars of the Nebraska athletic department when you don't have to, man? You're not going to win this game against Oklahoma, in my opinion. Now, I'm saying that now, and then that boom, they're going to pop up and get all nostalgic and behind Mickey Joseph and whatnot, and maybe pull out some kind of miraculous upset victory over Oklahoma this week. But I just don't see it. And that's why I say, why not just wait, man, till October the 1st? You might as well just ride it out, man. It's down but 2 or 3 weeks, and you save millions of dollars. It's a no-brainer. Which leads me to believe that maybe Trev Alberts, because Scott Frost is one of their own, just like he is, maybe they thought, damn, hate to fire Scott because he's one of our own, so let's give him a nice little consolation and give him millions of dollars. Well, that's fine, Trev. That's what you want to do. Take it out of your bank account. Don't take it out of the Nebraska Athletic Department's bank account and the boosters who've been donating and the fans who've been donating to the Nebraska Athletic Department, you don't make that kind of decision, man. Well, actually, you did. But you shouldn't have. It's borderline, like I said, spastic. Now, more on this is they hired Mickey Joseph to be the interim coach, which the players in the locker room exploded. Oh, look at that. They're all behind him. Ain't that grand? Ain't that just heartfelt and wrenching? No, it's not. Because when you make an emotional hire, you're going to get mixed results. Sometimes it works out, but a lot of times it don't. Now, I'm hoping that they're not thinking about seriously entertaining Mickey Joseph as their head coach going forward long term, because if they do, they need to take notes from Notre Dame. That's right. Notre Dame's Marcus Freeman become the first Notre Dame coach ever to lose his first 3 coached football games. He lost the bowl game last year, and he lost the first 2 this year because they made an emotional hire. They made him the interim coach for the bowl game, and then they decided to make him the regular coach because the players were so emotional and they were crying tears of joy. Well, that's all grand and good until you lose the bowl game, Ohio State, and then get upset by Marshall. And that's why Nebraska needs to seriously consider not making an emotional hire. If Mickey Joseph does fine, does all right for the rest of the season, well, that's not all attributable to Mickey Joseph. Mark Whipple used to be a head coach. He's an experienced head coach. He's still on the staff, so that's going to have a lot to do with helping Mickey out. Helping Mickey out as well. Because Mark Whipple can handle all the offensive duties for him, and all Mickey Joseph's got to concentrate on is trying to run the team and maybe get his defensive coordinator to get his ass in gear. Now, the top candidates for me on the Nebraska job are as follows. The top 4. Number 1 for me would be Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin would be the number 1. I said, you can't get Lane Kiffin. He's coaching the SEC. Ole Miss, Oxford, Mississippi. It's a good place to watch a college football game and whatnot, but it's comparable to Nebraska tradition. It would serve him better, I think, as a head coach in the long term. But the weather is an issue for Lane Kiffin. But he was born in Lincoln, Nebraska, like I mentioned in a video a couple of weeks back about Nebraska. The number 2 candidate for me would be Matt Campbell. Of course, everybody's been talking about that. I said that in my breaking news video yesterday, that Matt Campbell's probably the leading candidate. Then I would probably look at Chris Kleiman of K-State. Done a great job at North Dakota State. Come to Kansas State. Has kept that thing running since Bill Snyder retired a second time. And Luke Fickell of Cincinnati. They could drive the Brinks trucks up to Cincinnati and bring Luke Fickell back to Nebraska. I think he'd probably be the best candidate just about of these 4, other than Lane Kiffin. Now, the ones that I don't like that I've been hearing is Ed Orgeron and Urban Meyer. 2 morally bankrupt, corrupt jackasses. Now, Urban Meyer, yes, he's won national championships. Ed Orgeron's won a national championship. But what did they do after they won their national championships? Like I said, if you want your sons to be taught how to treat people badly outside of football, then yeah, you probably need to hire Urban Meyer and Ed Orgeron. Not so much Ed Orgeron, more like Urban Meyer, because he's a piece of shit. I mean, I hate to be blunt, but yeah, he's a piece of shit as a human being. Now, moving on to Jimbo Fisher playing Texas A&M. I think Jimbo Fisher is playing Texas A&M. I really do, because there's no excuse for us scoring 14 points on Appalachian State when last week North Carolina put up 60-something points on them. You mean to tell me you can only put up 14 points on an Appalachian State defense that give up 60-something points to North Carolina? Now, while North Carolina may have a great offense, you still shouldn't be giving up 60-something points to them. I don't care who you are. Well, unless you're Appalachian State, right? And the reason why I think he's playing them is because I don't think Jimbo Fisher is happy there. I mean, the way he acted in the offseason, threatening to slap Saban for some little comments, seems like he's a little unhinged to me. Seems like that something else is going on in the back of Jimbo's mind. I think Jimbo has went to Texas A&M and found that the cult-like atmosphere there is just a little too much to his disliking. And it would be for mine too, because there's a lot of crazy shit that goes on down at College Station. Don't get me started on the Yale Crew video that I saw the other day, where the guy was basically running down Appalachian State and talking about where they were from and calling them hillbillies and making fun of their mental aptitude. Y'all need to check that video out. That's some pretty crunk up shit. But my opinion is, and my boy Kuz, check his channel out, Kuz's Corner. He actually made me think about this when Jimbo lost this game the other day. And that is, Jimbo is from West Virginia. And it looks like Neil Brown may be about out at West Virginia. So maybe Jimbo is thinking, you know what, I just want to go home and I want to finish this thing on a positive note and go off in the sunset with not this much stress and cult-like stuff going on at Texas A&M. I'd rather just be at home in West Virginia and make maybe a few $1 million as opposed to $10 to $15 million. And just like Josh Pate, 247 Sports, said, Jimbo Fisher's problem is his offense is outdated. He's been carrying around the same papers. On the sideline, just hundreds and hundreds of papers. Just like frantically looking over them, trying to call plays, instead of being the head coach and delegating. You need to learn how to delegate, Jimbo. You need to hire you an offensive coordinator. That 2014 offense, that shit's expired, man. Obviously, it's not doing something. You're not doing something right. You got to learn how to evolve and adapt. And if you can't, you need to hire someone, bring some people in, and delegate. That's what the great coaches do. They realize when they need to evolve, and they realize when they need to delegate. Nick Saban does it. Ryan Day does it. A lot of great coaches do it. They learn how to delegate. And Jimbo, you got to let go of the clipboard, man. All these papers, man. There's all these papers everywhere. Hey, just throw the damn things away, man. And let someone else call the offense. And you be the head coach. You be the CEO, brother. But I don't think that's what he wants. I think Jimbo wants out. And he's looking for a way out. Like I said, the atmosphere in College Station, it's pretty cultish. Now, moving on. Notre Dame. Notre Dame stands now at 0-2 in the season. They've lost their last 3 games overall. Maybe last 4. They lose that last game of the year as well under Brian Kelly. Notre Dame, in my opinion, made an emotional hire, just like I said in the lead-up story with Nebraska. All these players, they clamored for them and whatnot. And when you do that, sometimes it works out. It has worked out in the past a few times. But lots of times it doesn't work out in the long term. In the short term, you may get you may get some success because they still got players that are lingering from another regime or whatever. But in this case with Notre Dame, man, I think they just they got a little lazy. I mean, I like Jack Swarbrick, their AD, but he got a little bit lazy in the hiring process on that. He should have went out and looked at some candidates for Notre Dame instead of hiring a guy that's never had any experience as a head coach, in my opinion. Like I said, not always does it work out like that. But Marcus Freeman, he really hadn't been an assistant as long as he probably needed to be. I mean, like, for example, Kirby Smart, 8-9 years as defensive coordinator for Alabama, waited on the right job, took a big-name job, but he was an 8 or 9 year coordinator, which is a major position on the coaching staff. It's almost like being a head coach. Brent Venables, we don't know so much about Brent just yet because they played a couple of cupcakes, but they've done what they're supposed to do. Brent Venables was a long-time assistant. Had plenty of years of experience in a high-level assistant position, not just a positional coach. And I think that's the problem with Notre Dame, man. They made an emotional hire, and now they're going to be stuck with him probably for at least 2 or 3 years. If I'm Notre Dame, if things don't turn around quickly, I would just chalk it up as I made a serious mistake. And I'm not all about hiring and firing coaches in 1 year, but there are extenuating circumstances sometimes that require you to do that. And I think this is one of them. I don't think Marcus Freeman's the man for the job. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. I hope he does. He seems like a pretty cool cat. But in the end, I think they made an emotional hire. And you just can't do that. Not in major college football. You got to run it like a business. Now, as much as I hate to do this, USC's Caleb Williams was one of the goods of the day. He had 20 of 27, 341 yards and 4 touchdowns against Stanford on the road in Palo Alto. But to take something away from that, Stanford was 3-9 last year. It ain't like they were a great football team last year, although they did beat USC last year for one of those 3 wins. They won that game 41-28. That was 41-14 at one time in the third quarter. In the fourth quarter, USC's offense disappeared. Now, I'm not sure whether they benched Caleb Williams at the end of the third quarter or if he played on into the middle of the fourth quarter. You guys and gals can tell me probably more about that because I ain't going to go all the way back and look at all that stuff. But all I know is that they disappeared in the fourth quarter offensively, and it ended up 41-28, which it probably should have been a lot worse. Now, Lance Leopold, he's on the good list. Lance Leopold and Kansas have won their first 2 games of the year. Last year, they made some strides. They played a couple of big-name schools close and got one big win over Texas. Almost beat Oklahoma. And this year, they've started off rather well. They've done what they need to do in the first game. And now in the second game of the year against a higher-level team in West Virginia, they won the game. They beat them in overtime, 55-42. So the Kansas administration must have knew what they were doing when they give the guy another 1-year extension onto his contract. Like I told a lot of my friends, and they didn't really want to listen to me because they were saying Kansas was a gimme. So I'm not too sure about that, man. I told them in the offseason, I said, look, Kansas, it looks like they're making progress. People act like Kansas has been bad for 100 years, but Kansas has their moments. Back in the early 2000s, they were in the top 5. They were actually undefeated at one point, and they thought they might be in the BCS title game. They ended up losing 1 game, I think, and ended up going to the Orange Bowl under Mark Mangino. So you can win at Kansas. So that's why I don't give these people thinking that it's just a done deal, that you can't win at none of these programs. You can win at any program just about, as long as you get the right guy in there and people with the right attitude. And I think Lance Leopold is that guy. And he may not be there for long because someone might end up snagging him up. If you can do that kind of work at Kansas, you can probably do that kind of work at a perennial blue blood program in football. All right. Now, go back to my team for a second. Alabama's deal. Everybody's blowing my thing up, man. What's wrong with your team, man? What's wrong with Alabama? Well, honestly, I think they probably bought into the hype a little bit. They've been hearing off season how this was the revenge tour and how they will come in and just blow everybody out of the water. Will Anderson's been talked about and accoladed so much to make up for the Heisman snub that people perceive that happened to him, that did happen. But the defense, everybody was getting on the offense about bad play calling with Bill O'Brien, and it was pretty erratic. I will say that. The play calling by Bill O'Brien was somewhat atrocious at times, and just really no rhyme or reason, especially when they were eating them up in the rushing game early on, and he reverted to passing the ball 3 or 4 times in a row. I mean, I understand you got to mix it up, but man, you don't just have to revert completely to the other side. You need to at least milk that running game until they stop it, right? But to me, the defense, who's not getting as much criticism because they held Texas 19 points, needs to be criticized. They had 15 penalties, man. Now all of them were defensive penalties. I understand that. But I think 5 of the penalties were on Will Anderson. Not just Alabama defense, but singularly Will Anderson, the guy that's supposed to be a Heisman candidate, the guy that's supposed to be the next coming of Derek Thomas. He didn't look like the next coming of Derek Thomas. Now, he got one great sack there at the end that almost pushed him out of field goal range, but almost only counts in hand grenades and what else? Getting laid, maybe? They give up 4 field goals. Should have given up 5 field goals, to be honest with you, because Texas missed one at the end of the half that was like a 20-yarder. So the defense didn't really shut down Texas's offense as much as people think. And of course, the quarterback got injured too, so they can have that as an excuse as well. So they give up 4 field goals. which means that Texas drove pretty deep into their territory numerous times. So, to me, the defense has a lot to blame in this too. Not just the bad offensive play calling, but definitely the defense. The defense needs to get their shit together, and luckily for them, they do have a couple of weeks to get shit corrected and get on the same page and maybe get some of this stuff behind them. They play UL Monroe this week, and then they play Vanderbilt. So they got time to get their act together before they have to travel to Fayetteville, Arkansas. And Arkansas is looking pretty damn good. So Arkansas, they took care of South Carolina rather well. They beat them 44-30. So Arkansas looks like the real deal. So Alabama may have some issues. I think they've beaten Arkansas 14 years in a row. That streak may be in jeopardy because, as you know, Alabama's offense and even the defense to some degree sometimes has issues on the road. And that's got to get corrected on Alabama's part. The offense has got to get more consistent playing on the road. And that's the good, bad, and the ugly for the day. You guys and gals tell me what you think. Drop it in the comment section. Let me know what you think the good and the ugly was from college football week 2. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. There's a little heart down here, a little thanks option. Click that, throw a few dollars in the coffers if you don't mind. Get me off YouTube teat. And as always, KMCA to all the other teams. Class is now dismissed.